You know, I hate to admit this, but Pavlov is completely dead. Not only does this game community completely drag it down in terms of just playing a normal game, but the steep competition with newer games just completely thrashing any point to continue playing Pavlov. Pavlov to me is not only just a VR game, but one of the first VR games I purchased on Steam. And while I do think that Pavlov still could have a future in the VR scene, the lack of updates, completely ignoring the community, and overall just a lousy experience on PSVR and Quest, will have players looking outside of Pavlov with better and better experience. Especially looking at Pavlov on Steam charts, this fall off is insane. Not only does this game not have any players past the age to tell me what 2 times 2 is, but there are fewer and fewer players playing, and it's still declining to this day. Pavlov is like the alcoholic family member. At first they're all good, and next they're filing for bankruptcy after their 5th DUI. Todd, there's no way you're getting your driver's license back again. Hey, Todd, I'm sorry, just put the belt away. I'm sorry.
I am the danger. A guy opens his door and...
Now look, this video is coming out a day before my year of weekly uploads event. I'm fucking tired. Look, this is a joke about supporting on Patreon, and this guy, it's the Discord, man. To join that too, just fucking click one of the links below. Either one works. I really need to like drink another Red Bull or something. I've already covered the beginnings of Pavlov to death already, but let's take it back to the bro. Fidget spinners are so cool. They go like this, and like this, and like this. 2017 VR is more bare bones than a 12-year-old's Quest 2 library, like one game and it's just Gorilla Tag. To be fair, we did get some pretty classic VR games at the time. Games like Lone Echo and Robo Recall both got released the same year. Side tangent really fast, if you haven't played Robo Recall, it's on the Quest 2. Easily one of the first VR games that I ever played. It's made by Epic Fortnite Games. We like Fortnite. But for the most part, VR games weren't really taking the full advantage of the technology that games today are finally achieving. Super Hot is arguably one of the most important VR games to come out at that time, and it only had you stand in one area to play the game. Robo Recall had movement, but it wasn't the smooth locomotion that's most common now. And think, these are the main VR games at the time. 2016 and 2017 VR is nothing like it is now, especially when you have AAA studios wanting in on the craze. And oops, we accidentally ported over our expansive open world game without any real VR support. Here's a beef stick, don't get lost. So the actually good VR games had you stand around for the most part without moving the player in any major way, since at the time plenty of people were having a little oopsie called vomiting at the thought of movement in VR. So nothing too crazy was happening with the technology. But then Dave Vills was like, hey, you know what, HTC Vive and Rift CV1, let me show you this little trick called using a thumbstick. Oh yeah, baby, move that thumb for me. This joke is getting way out of hand. Pavlov was nowhere near the first game to have smooth locomotion, don't get me wrong, but with the uproar of VR games popularity at the time, this game's launch was already shipping him to be an all-time classic to play in VR. Especially when the YouTubers got a hold of it. Oh my god. Swagger Soul's Pavlov videos blew this game way up. Swagger Soul's more like Swag My Soul told the phone. Considering that both CSGO and Pavlov are already pretty similar in gameplay style, this game was destined to be a great VR game. Even with the workshop feature, you could port any game map into Pavlov and we already have a wonderful time. But now we're not in 2017. We're in, please bro, I just want to afford eggs at a reasonable price 2023. And Pavlov isn't doing so well.
My name is Skylar White, yo. My husband is...
But before we get into that, let's take a trip down memory lane. Memory lane as in, bro, will you please stop talking about your no square? I'm trying to quick scope right now. Pavlov Shack is the Quest 2 version of Pavlov. Obvious graphical downgrades, but for the most part, it's still the Pavlov we all know. Being that it's still free on the Quest, which is a problem in my opinion, but we'll get back to that later. Pavlov Shack has definitely taken over as the primary version of Pavlov. It gets updates sooner, more players, and more coverage from the community. Although you'll have to download it from the App Lab, which is basically just the unmoderated version of the official store, it's still super popular as the dominant FPS game on the Quest 2. But like with any free game, there's always the inevitable flood of... Look, I'm not trying to hate on the younger crowd. I played games as a kid. You probably played games as a kid. We've all been known as the squeaker in the lobby and hated when we got called out on it. But this game really needs a f***ing better community. I don't mean that we need to get rid of all the kids. That's literally just impossible. But the amount of players that are just the most toxic, don't actually play the game, or just team kill to get banned is absolutely insane. It's to the point where I don't even want to touch Pavlov Shack because the only 2 maps people are playing are Bridge and Construction Site. I don't fucking remember if that's the name for it, but we're rolling. Which both aren't the worst maps in the world, but Bridge just turns into kids team killing and letting the enemy team spawn kill. And Construction Site is basically who can take over the top floor of the main building. I would say that would make me just play the PC VR version, but the boy oh boy do I not like playing Among Us VR and Pavlov every game. Dude, he team killed. I promise. You gotta believe me, bro, please. Not only does the PC VR version not have really any game modes outside of TTT or whatever Habby is playing that week, so realistically, you should probably play Pavlov Shack because there's actually a variety of game modes to play. But oops, it's filled with the goo goo gaga little baby to team kill because they don't know what to do. So it's just a gamble of getting a team that isn't team killing and doesn't leave letting another baby shit take their place. It doesn't help that this game isn't crossplay because the community between either version is completely different and would highly benefit from having a good mix of people to play with. Or at least on the minimum level having some sort of consequence other than just being kicked from lobbies for team killing or just being toxic. Being kicked from the lobby when you could just as easily join any other lobby doesn't mean anything. So people will keep team killing in every lobby. To be honest, I hate that this is a real topic to talk about. I really like Pavlov and I want it to succeed and be a great VR FPS game, but when I'm stuck with low player numbers or the toxic and unhinged chat community, it's something that needs to be addressed. Thank you to our patrons also known as Benjamin, Cammy, Chat Biscuit, Only Mints, Red Niall, The Russian Reject, and Vexy. Maybe when Dave Vills blocks me on Twitter, I'll stop complaining about Pavlov so much.